do tonight is discussions on human rights. We don't think there's going to be a vote before 10 o'clock, but if there is, myself and my colleagues will have to leave. In this case, Mushtaq will take over the chair. I don't think there's going to be a vote on those until later on. If they are, you'll have to apologise. We'll apologise in advance. We've got a number of speakers, and we do want to hear contributions before, so a genuine one. I've never known one in the house, not that I've been here, but there may well be, so if there is one, we'll go outside, we'll be led by the staff and straight away. Without further ado, I'm going to ask my colleague, Mahmood, who is the member for Birmingham and Perigord, to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much. Didn't expect to be the first speaker, but always a privilege to be here and speak on a very, very serious issue. I think we're all here to look at this very significant issue. This issue of the Black Day in terms of Kashmir and the people that have suffered since. When you've had almost 90,000 people killed since the illegal occupation of Kashmir by the Indian forces, I think it's important that we put the whole issue in perspective, because when there are still, from the day that they took over, there are in the region of about 600,000 to 700,000 troops regularly in Kashmir, and the activities that they carry out. Currently, the operations that they're carrying out in terms of cross-border incursions and firing that has taken place, and a number of civilians within that being killed, I think brings the whole issue back to reality. The action taken on the 27th of October in 1947 has had, as I've said, a long list of consequences that we need to look at and see how we can deal with them. And those consequences have continued throughout, and as my friend David Ward, member for Bradford East, in the backbench debate that he got on Kashmir, we were able to discuss some of these issues regarding what has happened in Kashmir. And I think it's important that we do raise this, because the issues that are going on day in, day out since 27th of October 1947 are the issues human rights and civil liberties. It's the issues of, as I said, about almost 90,000 people, over 90,000 people being killed. And if you want to put that into perspective up to today, and that is more than the Manchester United Stadium would fill. That's the amount of people that have been killed. When a family somebody leaves a family who is a father or a brother or a son or a husband, a family, they don't know what is going to happen to that person, whether that person will come back, whether that person will come back in one piece, whether they'll be tortured, whether they'll be beaten up, or whether at all they'll come back. When a woman goes out of that house, whether it's a mother, a daughter, a wife, they have real significant issues in terms of the fact whether that person will have their dignity intact when they come back, if they come back, or what physical state or mental state that they'll come back in. These are givens that we have in society today. These are the issues that we take for granted when we go in or we leave our homes, go to work, go and do whatever. These are givens for us. But they're not given for the people of Kashmir, particularly in those that are at the moment currently under Indian control. What do you do with over 600,000 troops if you're saying that you have peaceful objectives? If you're saying you have peaceful objectives and you want proper democratic structures, why is it that you will not allow international observers to come in and to monitor those elections? If you're saying we're the biggest democracy in the world, then behave like one. Then allow those people, allow the international observers, allow parliamentarians from this parliament to come out and to see you and to see what the processes are in relation to what you're doing. So I think there are a lot of issues that get lost in a lot of this media spin, particularly that some of the people from the Indian government put out, as they're currently putting out in relation to what's happened. And I declare an interest. I declare it because I am of Kashmiri heritage. And I make no bones about that. But I think it's important that we, in this Parliament, to the best of our ability, as colleagues have already shown the commitment to Kashmir, that we continue to do that. We continue to hold scrutiny of what's going on. Over the weekend, we had a march in London at the meeting at Trafalgar Square, where a very good number of people got together and showed their strength in the issue in relation to this. So we need to keep up the pressure, but we need to keep the pressure in the way that we can actually deal with this, that we can recognise what the issues. What we need to do now is not just have these debates and meetings that we continue to have, is that we need to put these on a formal agenda, look at our objectives, and hold and scrutinise us if you want to do that. Members of Parliament here, scrutinise other people in authority, and see whether they live up to those commitments or not. Don't just invite us to one meeting and say, we want you to come to the meeting and have nice photographs by these good people here around us, and we can put them on your outlets, whatever they are, and say we went to the Kashmir meeting. We want to be able to do something positive, and the only way we'll do that is a formal agenda set and move forward. I see that Mr. Qureshi MBE is nodding his at the back, and I'm very pleased that you're nodding your head, because I'll be coming to you to see how we can move some of this work forward. I know that he's done a huge amount of work in the past, and we should be able to do that. So, with that, Chairman, I'd like to thank you for letting me speak. But this is a very significant issue, and I think all of us should pay real attention and look at the objectives that we need to achieve. Without that, this issue is nothing. Thank you very much.
Good start. Can I now ask Andrew Stephenson, who is the chair of the All Party Group in Pakistan, MP for Pendleton, address the meeting. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be able to join you here. I'm sadly unable to join you for about the first half hour of the meeting, but as chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Pakistan, my group spends an awful lot of time working with the All-Party Group on Kashmir and other All-Party groups that are very interested and very concerned in this issue. There have been a range of events over the last few days to mark what is a very black day in history, to mark the illegal occupation of Kashmir. There was a very good march over the weekend, very well attended by many people, and David Ward and other parliamentarians worked very hard to secure a debate in the House of Commons recently on this issue, where many parliamentarians were able to put their views very firmly on the record and also to dispel some of the myths surrounding this issue. There are people out there who say that the issue of Kashmir has nothing to do with the British Parliament. There's people who say that we may have caused the problem, but we can't solve the problem. Let's put those issues to one side and let's just say, regardless of who was to blame for causing this problem, the British Parliament is interested in human rights across the world. We are interested in human rights violations across the world, and wherever there are human rights violations, wherever people are being denied their rights, the British Parliament should speak with one voice on those issues and ensure that the voices of those people are heard. I am a strong believer in self-determination for the Kashmiri people. I have sought through this Parliament since being elected in 2010 to do everything I can to raise issues surrounding Kashmir, working on a cross-party basis with a number of colleagues in the House of Commons and in the House of Lords. I've also worked very closely with a number of our members of the European Parliament, particularly Syed Karim MEP, who is a member of the European Parliament for the North West of England and was originally born and bred in my constituency. This is an ongoing issue, has been a long ongoing issue, but as the last speaker just said, meetings are great, marches are great, but we need action. We need to make some progress. For too long, people have suffered. The people of Kashmir have suffered, many suffering in silence, many who have raised their voices have been unlawfully imprisoned or worse. So we need to look at how we can move this forward. And working with other parliamentarians, I'm very keen to see what role the British government can play in pushing this issue further up the agenda and finally getting justice for the Kashmiri people.
Thank you. colleague who's come with us tonight from Kashmir. It's Abdul Rashid Turabi, who is from the Jammu Kashmir Committee.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Chairman, respectable member of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, I am very grateful to Third World Solidarity Forum and Barrister for providing me this opportunity to be with such a gathering. Today, 27th of October is being observed as Black Day all over the world by the Kashmiris. They observe this day as a Black Day because this is the very day when Indian occupation forces they landed in Kashmir, and the freedom fighters in Kashmir, they started their struggle, and they got 1/3 of Kashmir. When then Indian Prime Minister, the founding father of India, Nehru and his government, they went to the United Nations and submitted a petition, and they demanded a ceasefire, and they requested that this issue should be settled peacefully. Since then, this struggle is going on, and Kashmiris just demand that those resolutions should be implemented, and they should be given a chance to exercise their right of self-determination. Instead, giving them this right of self-determination, India has been trying to crush their will of liberation, and even India has tried to eliminate Kashmiris, since so far 500,000 of Kashmiris. They have offered sacrifices of their lives. Only on 6th of November 1947 in Jammu, 250,000 Kashmiris, they have been butchered. And during this period of 25 years, about 100,000 Kashmiris, men and women, children, and lawyers, and politicians, and doctors, engineers, and humanitarian different leaders and scholars, they have been targeting and they have been killed by the Indian forces. And to crush this uprising, they have put different document laws on Kashmir, Poda and Pota. More than 700,000 troops, forces and paramilitary forces and different agencies, they are operating there. Our leaders, they have been confined in their houses. I have just talked Syed al-Gilani early in the morning. He has been not allowed for about 5 years even to perform his religious obligation, to go to mosque. He has been recommended for the treatment in hospitals in the UK and America by the highest Indian medical board. But India is not ready to facilitate him for traveling documents. The valley of Kashmir is a spot from where our relatives, our brothers, they can't make a call to his brother living in Rubab. This is being done, this is happening in the age of communication. So this is the situation of human rights, violation of human rights, and the recently flood devastation has added the miseries of Kashmiris. About 5.5 million Kashmiris, they have been affected. Their property, their infrastructure, their hospitals, their schools, their homes, everything is lost. And our Kashmiris brothers living here, they want to assist them. We in Azad Kashmir, we want to assist our brothers and sisters there. But we are not allowed to go there. No any international aid agency, humanitarian group is allowed to go to Srinagar. No any media, no any observer. So this is the situation. I am very grateful. And on behalf of Kashmiris, on behalf of Hurriyat Conference, on behalf of suffering our brothers and sisters, I am very grateful. We are very, very grateful for such activities and services. It conveys a message of solidarity, a message of strength for our brothers there who are striving for just cause. I would like to request that such activities should be targeted and oriented. There have been reports produced by the Amnesty International and Asia Watch and different humanitarian groups in India also. The matter of mass graves, thousands of our youth, they have been picked and killed, and now mass graves are being unfolded there. And such reports, complete reports, credible reports. Now this is demand suffering Kashmiri that the international community, especially the British government, the British parliamentarians, we think the British government is a party to the dispute. And we have high hopes from, and we request that a resolution on the floor of the parliament should be passed as you have passed resolution on Palestine. Those issues are very chronic and very, the issues of international importance. I would like to request that a policy of creating a concrete pressure upon the Indian government should be adopted, so that our brothers and sisters, they should be provide some relief, and draconian laws should be repealed, and the volume of Indian occupation forces should be withdrawn, and we Kashmiris should be facilitated to help each other. I hope that this seminar will contribute in regard. Once again, I would like to thank you. Wassalamu alaikum.
I'd now like to ask one of my parliamentary colleague, mine, David Ward, who's the MP for Bradley, to address the meeting.
Thank you very much, David, and how good it is to see so many people here, I must say. The Kashmir conflict used to be regarded for very, very many years as the forgotten conflict, the one that no one ever really talked about, and that's changing. In fact, this is my third Kashmir-related event in the last week, and that's missing one on, I think, Friday night, I believe. So it would have been 4, and indeed there was due to be another one, I think, on Wednesday of this week, but that's now been moved to next week, I think. So it's all good news, because it is an area where so many other parts of the world where atrocious things are happening are in full view of the public and the world at large. And Kashmir, I know Kashmiris feel that this is an area that has not been given enough attention over many, many years, and that seems to be changed. I must say also, I'm pleased to be here in this all. I'm very impressed by this all-party group, I have to tell you, because I've been to probably I don't know, 300 odd meetings about Kashmir in the last 20 or 30 years, and for the first 250 of those meetings, certainly in Bradford, I knew everybody there every time. It was the same people every time at the 250 odd meetings. That's changing because the people that I now see at meetings about Kashmir, I'm delighted to see so many people here that I don't recognise. I have to tell you that. It really is good to have a Kashmiri meeting. To see so many people here that I haven't seen before at the event. Some familiar faces, we just can't keep away. But it is really, and I sincerely mean this, because it means that it's broadening and deepening and stretching out as it needs to do to reach more people. I think that the petition that was part behind really the recent debate, and everybody came along and called for the debate on the basis that it was all party, but also that it was all country, across the whole of the country. Signatures were gathered in, and it became a way, and we said to people when you're collecting, because most people will sign anything that you put under them to get rid of you if anything else, we said don't just get a signature on a petition, tell them about the issue. Many young people in the Kashmiri community now in Bradford think of it, and I have to say this, as an old man's problem. It's an old man's conflict. It's not for our generation. So Palestine is seen as a young people, very big issue at the general election, but less so in terms of Kashmir. So we said, don't get them just to sign the form and then to get rid of you. Tell them why they need to sign the form. Tell them about the issues. The other reason I'm really pleased to be here tonight is because when you discuss the whole of the Kashmir conflict, you'll be told off because you shouldn't be talking about this without putting the Pakistani side more strongly. Or you'll be told that you shouldn't be talking about this without putting the Indian side more strongly. And in fact, at the Diwali event, another one that I went to recently, I was told that same thing. Why are you talking about Kashmir? Are you anti-Indian? Or you should be told that really you shouldn't be talking from the Indian perspective or the Pakistani perspective, but you should be talking from the Kashmiri's perspective. And what about that? And that was a large feature really of the parliamentary debate, that we need to be talking about Kashmiris and not just about Kashmiris. So that's a development. But there's also another view, which again Andrew referred to, is that we shouldn't be talking about this at all in this place. It's none of your business, keep out. And I think those arguments were successfully demolished. If you read the debate, I think that it was well argued by many members of Parliament that not only do we have a right, some would say a duty, but certainly an obligation to discuss it in this place. Final point, again, reason I'm really pleased to be here, because it says here to promote and support human rights. So yes, you can look at it from the Pakistani point of view, yes, you can look at it from Kashmir, yes, you can look at it from the Indian perspective, but also you need to look at this from the human rights perspective. Whatever your background, whatever your view, whichever side of the argument you feel is strongest, one thing that you cannot and must not forget is the human rights perspective. And through justice, achieving peace and justice through dialogue and debate, the Kashmiri conflict will not be resolved by military means. It will not bring a solution, and it has to be through dialogue and debate, and that can only be achieved really when the issues are fully understood and accepted by the world at large, and that's the value of events such as this tonight. Thank you.
I just see it as a job. I didn't mention this when I introduced the gentleman. You've heard from 3 members of Parliament from the 3 biggest parties in Parliament, and there really is genuine cross-party support for this. I'm now going to ask a colleague from the House of Lords to give their view, as Barrister Manzoor from Lethbridge.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, and Your Excellency, friends and colleagues. As a woman, can you not hear me? I felt I'd got a very loud voice, but clearly not as loud as I thought. I'm here because I feel passionately about human rights. So if I talk about Kashmir, it's not because I'm against India. And if I talk about India, it's not because I'm against Pakistan. But recently I went to a debate where there was an issue where somebody said, well, if you talk about Kashmir, then really you're not for India. And I totally concur with my colleague to my right that really this should be an issue about human rights. And we in the UK believe passionately in having fair, just human rights across the world. And Kashmir is no different. And as a woman, I hear of the many, many absolutely terrible things that are happening to women in Kashmir. And I shudder that our sisters are suffering in such a way. I would not want my mother, my sister, my aunt to live some of the lives that they have lived and have endured. So for me, this is a personal commitment. But one of the things that I passionately believe in, I was delighted when the present Prime Minister of India offered a hand of friendship to Pakistan and invited the Prime Minister of Pakistan to India to begin the dialogue. Because it is through dialogue and through discussion that we move forward. And I was very interested when I looked at the results of the recent Indian election, where we find that Muslims make up a very large community within India. And yet, when you look at the numbers that are in parliament that are from the Muslim or Islamic origin, there are very, very few. I think in the 20s is the number that I heard. So people need to engage in the democratic process. But we here in the UK, I believe, certainly as a Liberal Democrat, passionately feel that we engage, and you have 3 Liberal Democrats here, we believe in engaging with the human rights agenda because we believe in a fair and just society for everyone, and Kashmir is no different. So I'm here to support you all.
I really commend all the speakers on being succinct. It doesn't happen very often in this place. Can I now ask another speaker who is always succinct, Saundra Satterlee, who is a member of Third World Solidarity Central Committee. Saundra?
A quick, brief few words. Third World Solidarity has been committed to a resolution in Pakistan since our inception over 25 years ago. We've held many meetings in the House of Commons and elsewhere to pursue this issue. It seems that we hope we're doing something, but we're not sure what good we're doing right now insofar as the tensions in the last couple of weeks have increased exponentially between India and Pakistan in Kashmir. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any solution in sight. The recent skirmishes have been addressed by many people on both sides. For example, the retired Pakistan General Talat Massoud says there is right now, and I quote, a lack of commitment on both sides. And you have the Pakistan Prime Minister who has committed very vociferously to commercial links between India and Pakistan. Modi is, it's unclear right now where Modi is. He seems to be interested in some kind of solution, but I haven't found evidence that that's the case. I hope it is so. Right now we have in Afghanistan, as everyone here in this room is aware, a withdrawal of British troops. And this causes a lot of concern insofar as widely acknowledged, the extremists there might find a new cause and move over to Kashmir. We're really in a serious situation on the world stage at the moment. And I think there is a bit of good news, which is sad and tragic, but optimistic to an extent, insofar as Ebola is concerned. Nations have come together that we would otherwise think impossible to voice their concerns about Ebola. Something to which any of us anywhere could fall victim. In addition to that, and this is my opinion, we have ISIS, very many names, that people have come together to say, let us combat this threat of people who rape women and behead innocent individuals. So these two extreme examples, I think, show that the global community can rise together and combat issues that threaten all of us. I would like to say, therefore, post-1947, a plebiscite at the United Nations, a resolution calling for a plebiscite for Kashmir has never been implemented. I would like to say, now is the time. Maybe people are finally coming together, and perhaps there might be greater consensus for resolving, as TWS advocates, peace in Kashmir. Thank you.
I don't know, that's why Vice Chair to speak. It's Lord Hussain of Luton, who's done a tremendous job in this house.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Baroness, Members of Parliament, Your Excellency, the High Commissioner of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to you. Well, here we are again. It's an annual event of Black Day, which is commemorated by the Kashmiri community around the world every year. The day that the Indian forces were brought into Kashmir, allegedly to protect Kashmiris from what they called then the Pakistani's aggression in 1947. It was supposed to protect the Kashmiri people. Indian government has always said that they had received a request from the Maharaja for that protection. But I have to say, not only me, but many historians, such as Alistair Lamb, has said in his research that there's no evidence of the Maharaja's formal request ever been produced by the Indian government. In fact, Alistair Lamb writes that the Indian government claims that they had received a request on 26th of October 1947, and they brought their armies in the next day, the 27th. Whereas the Maharaja had left Srinagar by road to Jammu, and it was impossible. Those who know the mountain terrain and the areas by road from Srinagar to Jammu, it was not practically possible to track down the Maharaja, get an instrument signed, and give it to the New Delhi government. That is Alistair Lamb's research, and I fully agree with that. And even now, even the British government, or the Indian government I should say, produces such a document, I am the first person to challenge it. It will be bogus. However, when the Indian army did come in to protect Kashmiris, they were unable to control the unrest. And as it's been said already, the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, ran to the United Nations asking for a ceasefire and promised a vote which would take place at the end for the Kashmiris to decide about the future. UN resolutions were passed on the request of India, and Indian government made pledges after pledges. They're on the record that their army is in Kashmir temporarily, and they will only stay there until the peace is restored. And at the end, and these are the words of Jawaharlal Nehru, well documented, that at the end there will be a vote, and even if the Kashmiris decided to stay separate from India, India is prepared to swallow that sour pill. And it's not once, not twice, it's not 10 times. This promise, pledge, was repeated by many Indian politicians for many years, until they thought, well, now we've got the grip on Kashmir, and we can change our mind. And they call it integral power. Oh, Kashmiris have started taking part in the local elections, therefore they're happy with our democracy. But ladies and gentlemen, who knows more than the British people? We have seen a recent vote in Scotland. Scottish people were voting for the British Parliament, they were voting for the local elections, they were voting for the European elections, and they were voting for the Scottish Parliament. But when it comes to decide about the future, the British government was not obliged by any international law to give them that right. No UN resolutions were placed in Scotland's case, but we thought it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad that we did. And I'm glad that the Scottish people made the right decision too at the end, to stay within the Union. We would like them and we want to keep them as a part of the United Kingdom. But India uses that excuse to keep control on Kashmir. Oh, just because they are taking part in elections. Well, that's a very different thing. It is not substitute to the right of self-determination. And in fact, that wasn't enough. The Indian government brought their army more in 1990 with special powers granted, protected by the Armed Forces Special Power Act of Indian Parliament, which gives the army complete license to kill. And this is not my words. My friends, you're all educated people, politicians. You can go on Google and find yourself those laws such as the Armed Forces Special Power and the Public Safety Act. They cannot be challenged in any court of law. As a result, the Indian army has killed more than 100,000 people. They have captured so many people from their own homes, and the next day you will find their bodies on the roadside. They have taken people away, and they have not been seen for months and years. And according to the UN, according to the Amnesty International last report, which was called the Lawless Law, there is a catalogue of thousands of such cases. Rape cases, mass graves, people being pulled out of their houses, and their families, children, are running around finding where their loved ones are. Are they in those mass graves? Are they being killed and thrown in the river Jhelum? Are they still lying in some dark cell in jails? Nobody knows. This is the situation that we are in. And according to the report, the very simple looking Public Safety Act, one can be detained for up to 2 years. And again, a reference to the Lawless Law report. It says that act has been used against individuals again and again and again. So if one is caught under that act, kept for 2 years, and before it runs out, they will take him out from one door and bring him back from the second door, and another 2 years. And according to the report, some people are being detained for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and in fact, in Shabir Shah's case, 23 years. That is a democracy. That is the largest democracy on earth. Do we call it a democracy? My friends, we have to ask ourselves. An army which has killed more than 100,000 people, which there are more than 25,000, well, there are hundreds of thousands of people who have been detained for some period or the other under one of these acts. Not a single family in the Indian occupied Kashmir, particularly Muslim community, without somebody being killed or arrested. And this is going on a daily basis. And there are other laws too, like Turabi, which was mentioned. What we have to say, these are unprecedented laws. Yes, these laws are used, and armies have been sent into Punjab, Tariq and Nagaland as well in the past. But those have been smaller periods, shorter periods. Army has been sent in Punjab for a short period with those powers. And we know what they did in Punjab too, but for a short time. My friends, since 1990, 24 consecutive years, That army been there at a rampage. You know, full gas has to kill. And they are doing the job well. I can have, you know, they've killed so many people. And India has absolute no desire to lift that draconian law or bring the army back at all. I think we have a duty as humanitarians for human rights. Why we ignore those human rights? If they were in Europe, we ignore them. Well, we don't ignore many places. Why are we ignoring Kashmir? Mr. Chairman, I suggest from this platform and any other platform that I work from, I say to them, let us write to the Indian Prime Minister and ask him. And we can do it on this platform, we can do it individually, members of Parliament, that why does he think we should not report him to the International Criminal Court? And also, I suggest, Mr. Chairman, I have suggested to one or two other committees that I'm a member of, that we should write to our own Prime Minister, asking him that if we can give a right to decide about the future of the Scottish people, why are we able to write the same to Narendra Modi and asking him to do the same for Kashmir?
Yes,
And I'd like to ask Mushtaq Lasharie to speak to the meeting. Mushtaq, who is, most people know, the chairman of Saundra.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and I think it is a great pleasure to work with you as a chairman, and I'm a coordinator of this all-party parliamentary group. I think there are many speakers today, and we could have gathered another 20 MPs if we wanted, and parliamentarians, but we always restrict a limited speaker that audience can also ask questions, and I hope Chairman will allow today as many as you can. I think number one is to congratulate the Kashmiris living in United Kingdom for a wonderful march they had yesterday. Can we have a big clap? Second thing is, I think there is, in this audience, you will find people from Ethiopia, people from Russian-speaking council sitting at the back, people from America, people from other part of the world, because Third World Solidarity is really a representative organization, and not only working for Pakistan or Kashmir, but work for Palestine and other issues as well. And I'll come to that in a minute. I think there are people sitting here, Nazir and Qureshi is sitting at the back. I hope he will speak. He's from occupied Kashmir. He's one of the very important person, and I hope he will say a few words, and we recognize your struggle as well. I think the cause Pakistan and Kashmiri people are fighting for, or Kashmiri people are fighting for, and Pakistan is supporting, is a just cause. And we believe in justice, freedom, peace, and tolerance. So we are supporting a just cause. It is not a cause which is not a just or cause which we believe in and we are committed to. I think I want to welcome everybody today to this meeting, and particularly the new High Commissioner, which we will work with to promote our cause with other colleagues from High Commission as well who are sitting here. Obviously, this meeting today is a very representative meeting. If I say everybody, friends of Lasharie is sitting here, Chairman of World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis is sitting here, and I hope they will be able to speak. Farmer diplomat from Pakistan, both husband and wife are sitting here, and many other who are very representative. And I hope you will become part of Third World Solidarity, because we are not only struggling for one part of the world, but we struggle for all part of the world wherever there is a trouble. And the second meeting, next meeting, which will be public meeting, is on 2nd of December, which will be meeting on what is next for Palestine after resolution. So can I ask the Kashmiri, and I'm very pleased that today three speakers are from Khalid, Ahmed and Rashid Turabi are from Kashmir, that we have to have a very consistent with our struggle. It cannot happen that we have a meeting, as David was said, of Kashmiri. We have to get out. We have to involve more people from Britain, from other part of the world who live here. The Russian Council, Speaking Council, the other people from Ethiopia, from Somalia, where there are troubles, and who understand what is happening and what is the prosecution and what is the right of determination, because we need to involve them. I think this is the right time as well, for many reasons. Number one, you have just heard that America and British is off from Afghanistan. They are not. They are going to stay there and support the Afghani government on many issues. And I think this is very right time for Kashmiris to raise their issue that, look, when you left last time, the killing started in Kashmir, and as everybody has mentioned, over 100,000 people were killed. It started in 1989 when Russia pulled out of Afghanistan. I think this time American and the Western world and NATO and international community will not leave Pakistan alone to deal with its issues, but they will stand with the people of Pakistan to deal with it, which in my opinion, and I wouldn't go into history, is created by us. We created it because we were involved in Cold War. And where we stand, myself and Chairman and many members of Third World Solidarity, I think most of people know, but I don't want to get into it. The second important point is that there is election coming up in Britain. On 7th of May next year there is election. Let's ask all Kashmiris and Pakistani, wherever they are living, 1.3 million Kashmiris and Pakistani, they should get involved in their local constituencies, in their local areas, to raise their issues. I know some of the former councillors sitting here from UKIP and other parties. So this audience is not only Conservative, Labour, Liberal, but other parties are also represented here, so which is very important. I think I welcome everybody to get involved, and my friend from Nigeria is here as well, boy, who is here on a visit, and I invited him to come and see how the meetings happen. So I think it is very important to involve wider community of United Kingdom, raise the issue through Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch and other organizations which Dave and myself work very closely with. And can I thank everybody for coming today and supporting this very just cause and very important at very important time. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Mushtaq. I'm now going to ask the last speaker for the platforms to speak the audience before I open it. I would like to welcome to the House of Parliament His Excellency the High Commissioner Syed Abbas, the new Commissioner that Pakistan did work very closely with your predecessor, and I hope that bodes well for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank you and Mr. Lasharie for providing me the opportunity. And I would also like to recognize Lord Hussain, Baroness Manzoor, other members of the House, because the Third World Solidarity Group needs my special thanks and appreciation for standing up for the people who have been denied their right, their fundamental right, which was promised to them by the international community more than 6 decades ago. So I think it's about time, that as the British parliamentarians have been taking lead in all the right causes, so it's about time. And I must say that it is very gratifying that a few weeks ago there was a backbench debate in the House of Commons, and that followed yesterday's march, which was by the Kashmiri diaspora. And I think time has come that the world has to realize that why this Kashmiri people, why these people are getting arrested. Because they are getting arrested, the world had made a commitment to them through the several UN Security Council resolutions that the fundamental right which has been assured under the UN Charter, Human Rights Charter, will be afforded to you. And lo and behold, unfortunately, that has not been the case. My government has always stood by our Kashmiri brethren. We have always, and we stand committed to provide diplomatic, moral support for this rightful cause, which we think is the right of the Kashmiri people. Because a while ago it was said here, is it a Pakistani perspective or is it an Indian perspective? I would say, let's listen to the Kashmiri's aspirations. What do they want? Kashmiri aspirations, because they have, like anyone else in the world, their fundamental right to determine their own future. So I think if we keep that in mind, then we are not talking about a territory, piece of land. We are talking about 15 million plus Kashmiri people. Kashmiris who are spread all over the world. So they want their homeland back. So I think the day which we are celebrating here today, ladies and gentlemen, reminds us of the occupation of that beautiful land, which was termed by one of the European Union resolution as the most, as the largest beautiful prison on the surface of this world, on the surface of this earth. So I think we are talking about a nation which is yearning for realization of their aspiration. And we are asking the world to stand up and fulfill their commitment. As far as my government is concerned, we remain committed. We will never waver on our commitment. But that does not mean that we have to sort of leave everything to us or to the the occupation forces. It is for the international community to also stand up for the right causes. Therefore, I would request and urge that, as the British Parliament or the British government has always been taking lead, as it was said a while ago, it was a very civilized way of providing an opportunity to people to have a referendum and decide. So I think if that can happen here, this is an internationally recognized dispute. Why can't the world give the Kashmiris their right? With this, I would say that, as far as we are concerned, we stand committed, but it takes two to tango. Unfortunately, it was mentioned a while ago here that, in the recent past, we have seen some escalation of tension along the line of control. Line of control is a line which has been temporarily marked between India and Pakistan. And there is a exchange of fires and mortars across the line. My government, my Prime Minister has said it time and again that we are willing to engage to find the permanent, peaceful solution to the dispute through negotiations. And I think that's the way to go forward. We can't be adamant and we can't say that either my way or highway. It has to be a negotiated settlement of the disputes, because who would know better than your nation? Because a while ago it was mentioned that the troops are coming back from Afghanistan. My heart goes out to the families of those 453 people who laid their lives. So you would realize there is no solution. There is no solution which can be implemented by force. It has to be through negotiation. So my government stands committed to negotiate this dispute through peaceful means, and we will always take into consideration the aspirations of the Kashmiri people. We don't want to do anything, we don't want to impose on anybody, but we are definitely a party, because internationally recognized party. Therefore, we are ready to play our role. I hope the other side will also realize the time has come, because it's not, we cannot brush these things under carpet indefinitely, because I think people want their rights. With this, I would hope that the message will be sent out that it's about time that resolutions should be resolved peacefully, amicably, rather than the use of force, because use of force will not lead us anywhere, rather it will complicate the situation. And I think it has been aptly termed, Kashmir has been aptly termed by former President of the United States, President Clinton, as the flashpoint in the world. So I think we are two nuclear neighbors, nuclear armed states. So we have to be very responsible. We have to act, we have to behave, we have to perform very responsibly. So I think my government is ready to engage on all these issues, provided there's readiness from the other side. With this, I would say, I would conclude to assure our Kashmiri brethren here, through the true representatives of the Kashmiri people, that my government stands committed, as always, to support the Kashmir's rightful cause at all levels, politically, diplomatically and morally, which we have been doing, and inshallah we continue doing that. Once again, Chairman, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, folks, we've got about 25 minutes before we vacate the room. I'm just going to say a few things before I open the room. I'm very, very clear. Mr. Turabi gave us the things he'd like us to do. I can commit this group to work with other groups in Parliament in both sides of the Commons and the Lords to do what we can to support you. We need information from yourselves, advice from yourselves, the best way to go about this. There's a number of approaches we can take in terms of putting motions down, we can call for debates. I'm a member of the Backbench Business Committee. If my colleagues in the room tonight want to come forward with ideas, I'm sure we'll have a debate in there and get this agenda on the floor of Parliament and have a real genuine debate. And I want to back up completely what David Ward said. If anybody says this is not our business, I'll tell them that's nonsense. Because the truth is, people like me, David and Khalid, we sit here, we represent the British state. And the British state has so much responsibility, not just for what's happened Pakistan, India, Kashmir, but other parts of the Middle and Far East. And whether we like it or not, that's part of the inheritance that we've got as politicians in this House, and we should not renege on that responsibility. I can guarantee you, whatever we can do, it is an obligation, David, you're absolutely right. And the question about right or left, this is not about right or left, this is not right or wrong. And as the Commissioner said, it's very, very clear. What is more of a human right than people to be able to determine for themselves who governs them? There's absolutely nothing, well, probably the right to life is probably the only thing greater than that. If you can't determine who governs you, then you're little more than a slave. And we've got to stand up and say that's wrong. And whatever we can do, as we showed, as been mentioned a couple of times, with the referendum in Scotland, we've had numbers of referendum across this country, across Europe, around the world. Why should this particular nation be immune? And there is a role for us as government. There's also a role for us to put the pressure on the United Nations. Because the United Nations should make a settlement mark much greater for a much longer period of time. So that's all I'm going to say about it, but I do want to try and get as many people as possible so people can make their interventions and make them short. And at first, I've been asked by Lord Hussain if Nazir Qureshi would like to say a few words. Nazir? Then I don't know fully.
Alhamdulillah. Mr. Chairman, honorable parliamentarians, dear brothers and sisters. First of all, I would express my gratitude and thanks for all those who have participated yesterday in the march and expresses their solidarity with our movement. Being a young man from occupied Kashmir, I wanted to say a lot. I wanted to talk about the atrocities of India. I wanted to put off the democratic cover of India to veil of democracy of Indian face, but there is no time. I'm surprised. For more than 67 years, people of Jammu and Kashmir have been crying. During these 67 years, more than 400,000 people have been killed. During previous 25 years, more than 100,000 people have been killed. Have you heard that young people have been slaughtered on the road? You have heard that daughters have been molested in front of their parents. Sisters have been molested in front of their brothers. And we don't see any cry. We don't see any reply from our world community. I belong to. My family has suffered a lot, and I cannot deny it. I have not seen my parents while they were dying. They could not see me. I have not seen my young sister when she was dying in Delhi. What is our crime? My crime is this, that I want my basic right. That is right of self-determination. We do not want to divide India. We want that India should remain united and it should be a developed country. But they themselves do not want to be developed. You know that thousands and thousands of people are begging on the roads. Why? India is spending a lot from their budget on defense. They have made our Pakistan also very weak, because Pakistan has to defend itself, and they are also spending millions of people for their defense. We are being crushed. We are not safe. I want you to see my home, but I know when I will go there, I will be killed. I'm not safe there. We do not want anything. We request the world community, when you have heard East Timor and given them a chance to decide their future, when you have heard South Sudan and given them a chance to decide their future, why not a Kashmiri? Why not my Kashmir? Kashmiri have been always peaceful people. They have never seen, they have never raised a gun in their hand. It is Indian army. They have compelled them to take gun in their hand. There are many examples I can give you. I thank you for your moral support, for support here, for organizing such such events. We recognize it. But we say, previously I had heard that Indian representative in the union here told, no, that is our part and parcel. That is our, it is our internal matter, and Kashmir is our part. If Kashmir is their part, why don't they allow Kashmiris to decide whether they are with India or Pakistan or what they want? I, as a Kashmiri, say, if they allow us to cast their vote, if people decide to be with India, I want to just pay. I want just to make efforts for them. India has never allowed Red Cross, Red Crescent, Islamic Relief to work there in India and Kashmir. There are floods, as Turabi Sahab has said. Hundreds and thousands of people have been killed. They were killed during this. There are thousands of houses have been demolished by this flood. They should allow international organizations to work there, but India is not. And anybody who wants to support them, they put hurdles. They put hurdles. We request international community to come forward and help those who are helpless, who are forgotten. I would also express our thanks to Pakistan for their moral support and diplomatic support. But I would say that they should not, they should be stuck with their historical stand. Their different stands, they affect our struggle also. You are part of our the issue, you are party of the issue, as India claims, Kashmiri of the Premier Party, and inshallah you should stick to your historical. We hope inshallah we will get freedom from India. We will get freedom from India with your moral support and with the support of international.
Right folks, we've got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to stop. Lady Wick, can you give me here, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out.
Could you stand up, please?
And tell us who you are, please.
Sorry?
And tell us who you are.
My name is Rubab. I'm a human rights defender. My question to yourselves is that what is the desired outcome from vis-a-vis the FCO and the United Nations in view of the pacts that have been signed? Also the desired outcome when it comes to human rights defenders. How many human rights defenders have been involved? Because much as the politicians would like to call themselves humanitarians, They are not humanitarians, they are politicians. I'd very much like to know.
We'll be the same. We'll be both at the same time.
I'd very much like to know how many of my colleagues are here, because the amnesty report has been mentioned. I do not see Mustafa Dalvi in the room. So it would be nice to have more of us here with the present issues and what the desired outcome is, sir. Especially vis-a-vis the IDPs, the violence against women that is happening even today. What the parliamentary group on Kashmir plans to do with the immediate relief that is required in present times, because we have IDPs, we have earthquake victims, and there has more water that has been released that has caused more floods on the Kashmiri side. What is happening in the present times is what we would be interested in. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Tariq. I'm Chairman of the Pakistani community in London. My question is there's a standard line in the West. India and Pakistan should resolve their issues themselves. That's not enough. When it was an Ireland dispute between Protestants and Catholics, Senator Mitchell came from America to solve this issue, and we demand the same from the British government. The double standards, one law for East Timor and one law for South Sudan and one law for Scotland. No, there should be one law. As the Right Honourable Member for Bradford has mentioned, this is a humanitarian issue, and that's how we look at it. Please also explain us the mechanism of how do you have a free vote like you did on Palestine. What is the problem with Kashmir? Why can't you have a vote in the House of Commons like you did for the Palestine? And what is stopping you? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just got a question for the gentleman who is also. My name is Iqbal, I'm the Chief Correspondent for Prime TV. Just got a question for this gentleman who is obviously from occupied Kashmir. How is the infighting between Hurriyat leaders, Ali Gilani or Mir or leaders like Yasin Malik, who have fought on, who have different ideological orientations, who have over the years accused each other of mishandling of funds, embezzlement, and who are obviously not really able to sort of share the same frequency? How is this infighting among the Hurriyat leaders weakened the
Right, don't answer the question, because I'm chairman tonight, so, chairman.
Thank you very much. My name is Habib. Yesterday, 2 days in the House of Lords in Norway here, people are talking and speaking. What's that? I heard like this, we are living in a stone age, like Kashmiri people are 67 years old. And Mr. Qureshi was like crying, And after 65 years, people are getting retirement, And I think might be he's now over 70 or something like that. So the British people have a responsibility, as I read on Google, on history books, as Mr. Dar said, you have a double standard, the British Parliament. And British Parliament has a good job. Last couple of weeks ago, they passed the resolution in favor of Palestine. And when first time anything's happened, the white people are on the street. I saw the 5-6 rally in favor of Gaza, which we part as well, and we really appreciate whatever black, whatever white, whatever any community, So it's my idea. It's in next coming years, you people and Pakistan commissioners and Mr. Lasharie, we should engage all entire British community. We were high numbers yesterday. I saw many thousand people, but we need thousand and thousand, And if you see the British and the Europe Union, they won't allow yet Turkish to become a part of Europe Union. They are together. So the white, black, Mugabe or whatever is Timor or Scotland, we need to support British. Why British, Kashmiri people might be they decide themselves. And one thing is very, very, very sad for me. I heard Mr. Moody is a tea seller guy. He was when I was like a teen baby or child labor, and it's my idea might be the world become like a more peaceful. But it's a very sad and shame for us. He bought last week billions pounds weapons or arms from Israel. So please, I suggest please act more actively, more energetic, and we need to sort out the Kashmiris, because I'm going to maybe next 10 years to die, you know, maybe Mr. Qureshi, maybe someone. So I want to see in my life next 5 years, and I say, Modi, please take more on Pakistani's boundaries, shelter boundaries. Maybe you are take on us, maybe we came together again, you know. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Nazir Lodhi. I'm the chairman of the organization. We work for human rights and community cohesion in Islam, our future foundation. It was a wonderful speech and lovely gathering. One question we have to ask the British government. What is important? British jobs or Kashmiri's blood? It is all about good, long business relationship with the Indian government. How much export they can do them, how much money they can make with the relation with the British. Okay. Until and unless we decide where you put pounds and the British blood, Kashmiri blood, it's very difficult to convince the hierarchy of the British government and the hierarchy on the British platform to support Kashmiris. We have to work on that issue, to tell British government and all of the Western world, British people have to decide, are they going to go with the human rights of Kashmiris, or just looking to look at their balance sheet doing a business with India.
We're able to time, gentlemen over here.
Mr. Chairman and everybody, Assalamu alaikum. I just want to say 2-3 words. My name is Major Retired Hussain, and I just want to say a few words. Sir, this is a matter of not only India, Pakistan, or Kashmiris only. It's a matter of world now. And why it is a matter of world? The simple reason is one, that the two countries are two nuclear nations now. For God's sake, make some solution of this issue before some very big thing happens in the world again. And that will be the most saddest day on this earth. So this is the time for the world to intervene into this matter and resolve this issue, because there is no other issue between India and Pakistan. It is only the Kashmiri people. They should be given their right of self-determination, and that's the only answer. Thank you very much.
My name is Dr. Qureshi, Captain retired. I am 71 war veteran, and I was officer commanding in Jafarwal Sialkot sector. I have seen 300 villages and civilians being killed by Indians. It is not only army which are fighting, and after 44 years, I can see parliamentarians are now having some humanitarian touch and working hard. Please carry on this good mission to save the future population being killed by enemy in Kashmir. This is my request to British parliamentarians, because this problem was created during British Raj, and this is what we are looking towards you to resolve it. Thank you.
Oh, hello, assalamu alaikum everybody. My name is Mahmood. And मैं ये कहूँगा कि सिर्फ ख्वाहिश करने से नहीं गिरता है फूल झोली में, वक्त शाख को हिलाना होगा, कुछ हासिल नहीं होगा अमीरों को बुरा कहने से, अपने हिस्से का दिया खुद जलाना होगा. We are knocking on the wrong doors. Don't expect America or Britain will get you freedom. They won't. They don't. Even the media is so biased. How many times do you see a British media showing atrocity in Kashmir? They don't, because they are not interested. And the only people who are going to gain independence from India is Pakistan. So we all Pakistanis should get together and support Pakistan if we want to see the freedom in Kashmir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Syed. I'm a Vice Chair of a UK Working and Diagonal. We heard all speakers. There's one thing in common, and we all aware of it. From last 67 years, India has been committing crimes against humanity, killing innocent people, torture, rape. Whole world being silent. I'm delighted to hear from you today. You said we will put pressure on United Nations. United Nations, India has been violating human rights, the European Human Rights, Geneva Convention, and the Universal Declaration of United Nations. But we haven't done anything yet. But what would you do now to put more pressure on United Nations to resolve this issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My name is Qureshi. I'm the Chairman of the Forum for International Relations and Development, and the Forum has, as a matter of fact, for the last 3 years been working tirelessly on the 50 years no war pact between India and Pakistan. And we have been recommending this thing in many sectors, that 20 to 25% of the budget is being spent on the defense. Hence, if the 1% budget is decreased in both countries, and if the international players take responsibility and take the ownership of this issue of Kashmir, which hasn't been taken, as they have taken the ownership of issue of South Sudan and East Timor, as it has been mentioned by the previous speaker. I think the international community, I'm really pleased that, Chairman, that you have taken this responsibility now. Many parliamentarians have taken, David Board was sitting here earlier on, to the parliament. I think it's quite important for all of us to now have this target-oriented approach, like Mr. Turabi said. What is the target you are giving to the community to come back to you? Solution. What that we could do to support this cause which you have brought to the community? I think that's one thing for us, for the community. What is that we need to do with you to achieve our objectives, what we are going to set? That is one thing. And the second thing, which is very important, the British parliamentarians, they have taken many bold steps now with regards to Palestine, and now they are taking very bold steps with regards to Kashmir. I think they need to work with the counterparts in the United States to involve them in this process, and we are very happy to support Third World Solidarity. Thank you very much, Lasharie, for organizing this event. We are very happy to support you to take the United States on board, take the British Parliament and the European parliamentarians on this issue, and have one group to lead on this issue. Tell us what you need from the community. Khalid mentioned earlier on. We are there all the time to support this cause. Thank you.
All right, dead quick, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is Arif Malik from World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis. I anticipated some of the speakers would refer to one of the most crucial aspects which is happening right now. That is the BJP government, in fact, is planning, has already planned to abrogate the Constitution of India. This is 370, through which they are going to, in fact, end the special status of Kashmir. And for this purpose, they have already planned, which is called Mission Plus 44, Telegraph published a special report on that. My question is how the British government would react to this step if that happens, if the Modi government end the special status of Kashmir, which is further going to fuel the fire. I already mentioned the flashpoint. So I'd like to have your comment on that, about how you plan to react to that. Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lasharie, and all the members, nobody has a courtesy to thank you all what you have been doing here. You are contributing a lot. This is the start. I think it will go a long way. My name is Ahmed, and I appreciate what you're doing. On the other hand, I request for Kashmiri brothers, if you have one enemy, you have 20 organizations. Why don't you get united? Look into your own backyard first. Are you going to be united? Are you going to do something, campaign about it? It's no good just mourning about it all the time. Do some practical work. Thank you.
Just very quickly, Chairman, if I may, as we're looking at time. I think some very good and passionate issues raised. And I think the more we talk about the issue of double standards, and a number of speakers at the start of the question did raise that, I think what we've got to do, as Mr. Coleman just said, the very last speaker, is not to blame everybody else, but look at what we're doing. And until we start to look at that, until we start to deal with those issues. You know, we just had a very good show of unity in terms of the demonstration yesterday. But we need to do a lot more of that. We need to look at the real issues and sit there and deal with it. So let's not make too much criticism. Let's see how we can get united. And having a huge amount of organisation isn't going to help anybody. There are some real issues. I think been raised also by the Major and the Captain, who from practical experience that I raised. The issue is where this Modi government is taking us to. And already they've started. They've shown the intent of the fact that they want to raise the military profile of the whole campaign. So to subdue the tension, or increase the tension, but subdue Pakistan in that relationship. And that will lead to far more deaths as well, on both sides, but particularly in Kashmir. So we need to be very much aware of that. As I said before, I'm glad to see Mr. Qureshi here and mentioning that. I certainly will be taking on board later on, discussing that with Mushtaq, Mr. Qureshi and David, and see how we can actually put some of that together and do it positively. So I think all of us need to get together and to do that. And hopefully, if we do that in a constructive manner, we'll be able to achieve something. Thank you.
I would like to just echo the sentiments of Mr. Coker and thanking you, Mr. Chairman, your group, Mr. Lasharie, and all the others for standing up for the causes of the people who have been deprived their fundamental rights. You are doing great. We wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
I'll try and go through, if I miss out some of the points, I'm sorry. The lady who spoke first, I mean, I was not amused when you said that you can't be politician and humanitarian, because I think you can be, and we can have a debate about that afterwards. The truth is, we need information ourselves. We are more than happy to raise issues in there. You need to understand, all of us who have been here tonight, we aren't in position of government. We're members of Parliament, some of us are members of the government's party, we're merely getting backbenchers. There's a limited amount of what we can do. What we can do though is make a noise. If we get the information ourselves, we'll do that. Tariq spoke about responsible to the Pakistani community, give us information, and you're absolutely right. When people say leave them alone to sort it out, what they mean is leave them alone because they won't sort it out. We know that though, which Ireland's a classic example. Would anybody suggest that Israel and Palestine are going to sort things out without like outside? Of course they're not. So absolutely right to do that. The gentleman at the back who's asking Mr. Kashmir the question, I think you need to have a discussion on your own because I couldn't even hear. The fact about our responsibility and what's being done, it was said earlier that we did have a debate on Kashmir in here a few weeks ago. Part of the issue we've got is there's a number of groups who work on this in separate silos. I think part of our job is to try and pull that together and pull together interests members of Parliament who can feed into that. The gentleman, I think it was Mr. Lodhi, said to me about jobs or blood. You're absolutely right. But is that not the history of people across the world where you've had colonial empires? It's always been about what's good, jobs or blood. The whole issue around Iraq in many ways was allowed to fester for 20 years when the government of this country in the West turned a blind eye when Saddam Hussein was wiping people off the face of the earth. And we should have been involved then, instead of which we kept quiet because Saddam was keeping the Iranians occupied while 1 million innocent young men got killed on the battlefield. And we've got to stand up and say that just quite simply is not correct. And I'm really, really glad that Major mentioned about the nuclear issue, because it's never ceased to amaze me how much focus is on Iraq and will they or won't they get the bomb when we've got two nations right next door to each other who've already got the bomb and we don't ever talk about it. Just it petrifies the life out of me that somebody somewhere will make the wrong decision one day. Sorry, to talk about the first-hand reality we'll carry on. And I think it's absolutely right. We can't rely automatically on the US or the UK, but we can't ignore them either. And part of our job is to try and raise the pressure in here, and then through the other bodies which were mentioned later on, obviously the European Union and the Americans, if we can get them involved. One of the big problems, if people realise this, trying to get the Americans engaged on anything outside of their 50 states is really hard. There's more people like Saundra who are involved, and it's not being detrimental, because I think the American people as a nation are really decent people who want to play a part in making the world a safer place, but some of the politicians just don't want to do it because they see other issues why they look after themselves. The amount that's spent on defence, again, I can't argue with you. I mean, spending that kind of money on effectively keeping people under control instead of spending it on making the world a better place. It's exactly why this group exists, because we think that is a nonsense to do that. There's a raft of things we can do in this house. We have a system of early emotions. One of the best things, somebody asked at the back, how do we get a free vote? We got a free vote because in the last days of last Parliament, a report came out and it said more time on the parliamentary agenda should be decided by ordinary MPs and not by governments or the leaders of political parties. And we set a group up called the Backbench Business Committee, and in there we dictate 35 days a year what the agenda of Parliament is going to be. Now, the only real issue with that is we can win votes overwhelmingly and the government can ignore them if they want to, as they've done on the Palestine issue. But the fact is, that's one access to the democratic process we've got to use and make a noise about. If we're doing it, and if you're out in the community getting to see your MPs and saying, are you going to go to this debate? Are you going to engage in that debate? Because if you don't, we'll let you know about it when you want to have a vote. Then that's democracy in action. That's what we'll need for yourselves. I've missed anybody, but I'm sorry. I said it before, our real intent in this group is we have people from all around the world who can speak at this place. It's about giving a forum to people to do things. It's not very often we take on board practical work. Well, not because we don't want to, because it's really about dialogue between people. But I think this particular work is so important and there's so many groups involved. And I think it is a place where we can have a real impact. So I'm going to speak to Mushtaq. We'll pull together a small group of people who can advise me on, and hopefully the ambassador, the High Commissioner of the people, and work out the programme for going forward, getting this on the public agenda in this House over the next few months, which will hopefully feed into people taking some positive action prior to the general election. Thank you very much.